men, manly men, 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 manly men, men, men.
Men, 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 manly men.
What do you think of the common belief that men unknowingly oppress women?
Ooh, I think that's a big statement there to say. I feel like a man wouldn't do that in the first place, because a man, as I said earlier, is someone who respects himself, and if you respect yourself, you know this, and you will respect other people as well. You respect your opposite gender, you respect females. You will not oppress them in any way, shape or form, because you respect yourself enough not to go down that path to do that anyway. So I do not agree with that statement. I've not really come across anyone who does this that I'm aware of.
I wouldn't say oppress, but I think unknowingly sort of telling jokes or spreading rumours, doing that kind of manly thing, I think that can have adverse effects, but I'm not here to say that that's like banned or like that's ruining or oppressing anything, because I don't really think I can have that opinion. I can't say that because I don't know that for sure.
Are you aware of the women that do say that?
I am aware, but I feel like sometimes it's said out of spite. That's what I think, because I feel like the same way a man respects himself, that's the same way a female or a woman or a lady should respect themselves. And if you respect yourself, a man respects himself, a lady respects himself, I feel like there wouldn't be any form of oppression here and there. Although there's the stereotype that man is the head of the family, so they unknowingly will probably exert some level of force or pressure on the opposite gender. But I feel like this isn't the case. In a household, especially in a Christian household where God is deemed as the head, everyone is equal.
Generally, although it's got much better, as a whole, women are still somewhat suppressed. Like, a man could get, I feel like, as a man talking, a man could get further in his profession than a woman could get in their profession with the same, backgrounds and job, same things backing them, like same education, same experience, etc., etc. And why do I say that? I just say that just because it still kind of is a man's world. You still have the men in the boardrooms, we have the men in the positions of power, and that's just statistically, like, you just look at percentages, and oftentimes you want to connect with or allow into your profession people that look like you, people who are like you, people who understand you.
Yeah.
So that is why statistically women will have it a bit tougher.
Can you counter that point by saying that men are more likely to die at work, men are more, they work more hours? Do you think that has...
Yeah, but that is because...
And the fact that women have to, or they need to have children by a certain age, so for a business, if you're talking strictly business terms, do you reckon that is the reason you see the disparities?
Yeah, there's definitely biologically set disparities that lead to economic and societal disparities. For example, your point about, not every woman's going to have a child, but a lot of them do, and that means they leave the profession out of no fault of their own, just because they want to have children. They leave the profession, but some man doesn't have to leave the profession. And as well, you have men that work more dangerous jobs like coal mining and going to the army and etc., etc. So, of course, those jobs there's going to be disparities. Maybe it's physical ability as well. Those jobs are hard, intense labour. You're not going to see many women, even bricklaying, and you're not going to see women there. Mm-hmm. But in office environments, it might be a bit more, fair and equal. So just to go back to the point. So obviously with that, because it's the way society's set and etc., etc., it's just kind of, men come up with maybe some innate tendencies to oppress women, and when I say oppress women, I don't say it in just such a harsh way, like they literally want to just hurt them. Because if you grow up in a nice household, a decent household with a mother figure, you're never going to want to do that. I feel if you just raise correctly, you're not going to do that, because you recognise they're literally just the other half of the human race, really.
Was your dad around growing up?
Yeah, my dad's always been around. My dad's been a massive role model for me throughout my childhood, and I think people that may not have had that role model or that opportunity, or may have found a role model in someone else, whether that's like your favourite football player or celebrity, or just a person that you find like really inspiring, like an activist or a politician. What? Jesus, yeah, religion. Religion's a great example. I think role models are a massive, massive aspect in anyone's upbringing, and they really do influence how you behave. And I'm thankful that, you know, I've had the opportunity for my dad to teach me like how to respect myself and respect others as a man. Not everyone may have had that opportunity, but it's important for men to have the right role model in their life, so they know how to behave correctly, I guess, or however you define correctly, whatever works best for you.
Yes and no, and the reason being is, the reason I say yes is because even though my dad was traveling around, it wasn't a deliberate, decision for him to go away or to leave the house, but it was more so for the benefit of the whole family. We did speak a lot, and I did look up to him as well. I did have my older brothers around me to also serve as role models around me. So, yes. And the reason saying no is obviously he wasn't there physically with me, and it is very important to have your dad there physically with you. Because even though I did look up to him, things may have been a little different if he was there physically with me.
Speaking about men.
Sounds good. Was your dad around growing up?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
How would you describe your dad?
I would describe my dad as a wise, quiet, caring, supportive person. Yeah.
How pivotal do you think that is to who you are now?
Very, very pivotal. I think a father figure is definitely needed in the life of anyone to just like contribute to the upbringing, just like a mother would be as well. They're both very equal, and I know like nowadays having a father in your life is probably, well, maybe I wouldn't say less so, even though it kind of is, but I think it's just as important. Obviously, they don't get their credit as much as as much as mothers do, even though they might put in just as much as the work.
Was your dad around growing up?
Yeah.
Describe your dad.
See, I'd say my dad is more like a reserved type, a bit more conservative. Like, I don't really think that, like, you see in a lot of movies, like, kids having their dads to, like, mentor them or teach them stuff or give them advice. Like, I didn't really have that. But I think still there being a role model to teach me things when I asked, or to help me with any problems, and just set like a standard for how I wanted to be when I was a child. I think that was important.
Describe the importance of having a male role model in your life.
Yeah, I feel like it's someone you can literally look up to, who's right next to you, he's physically there, you can legitimately copy what he's doing, kind of thing, but in the sense that you can pick up certain behaviors in terms of how he interacts with the family, how he interacts with his mum, his wife, how he interacts with the people around him, to give you clues about how to behave as a man in society.
Not to say that there are not times where men are expected to cry, but do you think men should be encouraged to?
But it comes down to personal preference, or personal, like, how you feel. I'm not someone that's shy to admit that there's been stages in my life where the best thing for me is to be like expressive of my emotions, whether that's crying or, shouting, just letting it out. I think crying is a really powerful expression of obviously unhappy and sad emotions, but it's also the human body's like way of dealing with pressures.
Yeah, I feel like men shouldn't be encouraged to, because I feel like it isn't a must or a requirement. I feel like there's no need to encourage men to cry. I feel like men have the right to express themselves emotionally whenever they feel like. I don't think it's society's place to deliberately start encouraging men to cry. I feel like is a thing where men should be open to expressing themselves anyway, and it's quite personal to every man, whether they want to cry themselves or they don't. But if they feel like crying or expressing themselves emotionally, then nothing stops them.
For me, it's a bit weird because I don't like showing my feelings. I feel like because if you show your feelings to the wrong people, that's like a weakness, I think, because they don't have your best interests at heart. So if you just encourage everyone to cry when they feel sad, then it's like if you're doing it around people that don't care, you're literally wasting your time and your energy, because crying can be futile sometimes. So I wouldn't say you should encourage men to cry, but you should encourage them to definitely find supportive circles and friends and role models in their life that they can be emotionally open to. And if that involves crying sometimes, then yeah, because sometimes a good cry can release loads of tension and stress and all that.
I think they should, in the sense that talking about their emotions or any trauma, anything that's happened to them. You know, I don't think it's right to just solve every situation with crying, because there are some situations that don't need it. But definitely when it comes to mental health and opening up and talking about issues, I really think that is important, because if you have no sort of way to release all that pent up energy, then it just keeps building and building, and then it just really just creates this like really toxic atmosphere inside a person's head. So I think, yeah, in the sense of talking about emotions, I think it is right to sort of put emphasis on men crying and just being allowed to do that.
I think that crying is something that you may not, or typically you may not feel that you may not see men do as much as women or other people in society, but it certainly doesn't mean it's a weakness. It's a human characteristic for everyone regardless. So men should not be encouraged to cry, but should feel comfort that if they do cry about something, it's not abnormal and it's completely like correct to do so.
Do you think enough attention is given to the Do you think enough attention is given to the overuse of vices by men, such as pornography, alcohol and drugs, and their negative effects?
Do I think there's too much attention?
Do you think there's enough attention?
Oh, there's enough attention. Nah, there's not. Listen, I think if you balance, life's all about balance, and if you balance things in your life correctly for you, and you're not doing yourself harm, then that's how to get by. But if you're finding, you need to be able to recognise if you're finding too much of a dependence on something, whether it's a substance or whether it's something you're seeing on the internet like pornography. Or pornography is a great example of something that's really unhealthy and promotes a false reality. It's something that shouldn't be shamed because it's such a common thing. People may not talk about it as much, but you don't realise that it's such a global and accessible thing throughout the world that it's really common for people to participate in and to watch. I just think that if you become dependent on anything, it promotes a false reality, and it shouldn't be something that you expect in life. So it's about being able to recognise what's real and what's not real. That's the important part.
No, I don't think there is enough attention to those sort of negative vices and sort of the negative effects they have, because I feel like when telling men not to like show emotions or stuff, that sort of becomes, those vices sort of become a coping mechanism. And I think definitely not enough has been done to promote like how those can take over your life and just drastically like ruin it and put you in a bad place. Of course, like it's all right to have those vices there, because they obviously like remind you what it is to be like a human. Like it's a perfectly normal thing. But when it comes to overuse, no, definitely there needs to be more talked about the negative effects of men overusing them.
No, there isn't enough. And the reason I'm saying this is because the age where males get addicted to stuff like pornography is lowering over the years. And I feel like from young, or from as they're growing, parents and people around need to educate and make them aware of these things, because they're real. We need to make the male community aware of these things before it is too late.
stay subscribed. Good content. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe and share. You know, if you found this useful, found it insightful, share. Bracknell, B-Town, let's go.
Just follow this guy, man. Just follow this guy, because he's doing great. He's doing great. Help him to help others.
Subscribe to this guy's channel for some wise life tips.
Like and subscribe for more great content. He's talking about the real issues here.
I'm holding a gun to his head.
Please help me.